what is this dream state? And I've often thought, is dream the reality? And this is like they've tricked us, because they can control this part of a dream. Is it some collective dream we've somehow bought into, and they're shaping it and making it more and more solid, and believable for us? And that's the trap where reality is really, like you said, the dream state, right? Where we're out there creating, but we've all got into this, Borg-like kind of connected consciousness dream. Good. All right. Hello and welcome. My name's Campbell. This is Spiral Up, and we're back again with another Rules of the Realm chat with Howdie Mickoski. Welcome, Howdie. And last week we chatted about dreams, so we're going to start off with a bit of a recover on the dream sort of chat, and then we'll see where it goes. How are you going, Howdie?
Hey, Campbell. I'm generally okay. Some of you might notice or hear my microphone's a bit different today. For some reason, the microphone on my computer isn't picking up my sound, so I have to use one of these old lapel microphones. So I hope it's going to be good enough. Beyond that, I guess I'm fine. Let's see where this goes.
Yeah. All right. So we were talking about dreams last time, and we sort of touched on meeting up in dreams. Is that possible? Sort of, what is the dream state? What's it all for? So yeah, got any thoughts where you want to pick up on that?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I was sort of I've been a little more aware of my dreams, and I certainly dreamt a lot in the last week. So there's been quite a lot of dreaming, and I can't say any of my dreams have been these ideas like wisdom dreams or prediction type dreams, where these things so I didn't have any of those, but the dreams were very vivid. I did have a moment though where about 3 days ago, it was just in the moment of going to sleep. So when I'm in that moment of, you're not asleep yet, but you're just drifting, you're in that drifting state. And I had a key understanding of something from one of Carlos Castaneda's books. It was like a very clear understanding of what he was talking about, so much so that I had to just get up and I had to write it all down, because I knew if I didn't write it down, then I would have just gone to sleep and lost it. So I remember back in my past, maybe you can relate to this yourself. It's that time. It's like you're not asleep yet, but you're kind of not awake. It's when you're falling asleep. It seems like there's a doorway that opens right then, where if you have something on your mind, answers can come. It's like you can't just be blank. There was something in my head I was thinking of, and from what I was thinking of, it was like, boom, here's the answer to what you were thinking. So something in this moment of not really asleep and not really awake is also like a crack of potential information.
Yeah, just recently I've sort of been taking naps in the afternoon. I normally sort of, sleep 6 hours at night, but if I don't get my 6 hours, because at 6 I just wake up, so I'll have a nap in the afternoon. And I find when I have a shorter sleep, I always pretty much get that state when I'm waking up. And I was just thinking, we have all these people like Buckminster Fuller. I think Edison talked about it as well. I think it was Da Vinci as well, where they didn't really sleep a lot. That they had shorter sleeps, didn't they? They had, I think Buckminster Fuller said he sort of would have half an hour, and then he'd work for 6 hours and have these short sleeps. And then these people are getting all this inspiration, right? So I wonder if they've somehow tapped into that they're spending more time in that, that connected sort of intuitive phase of sleep, and if they're doing that by shortening it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've known a couple of people who've written a tremendous number of books, and they claim that like they live their day to like 10 or 11 o'clock, and then yeah, they might have a small sleep, and then they would work from like midnight to like 6 in the morning just on their books, and then they might have another, yeah, like you say, hours sleep, and then they're ready for the day. So it's like they didn't actually need to sleep. Now, so that answered that brings up a question. Well, one, do we really need to sleep? What is really happening from the standpoint of sleep, which we tend to think of, I guess, as two ways: some sort of regeneration for the body, that somehow the tiredness of the body is being regenerated, and two, that we're going into this astral realm or other realms or something, that there's some sort of interaction in these other realms going on. So if you don't sleep, that there's two possible avenues for conversation then. Does it mean A, we're not regenerating? So if you don't need to regenerate then in your sleep, if you're not tired and getting sick, then does that mean you're not actually losing energy during the day? The other side of it, if we're not going in the astral realm for 8 hours a day, is that a benefit or is that a negative? Like,
Mm.
it might be they're doing all this writing, but by not going into the astral realm, they might be losing something that normally is good for humans to get. So that's the first question I would get into is, first, how important is sleep? Never mind dreaming. What is sleep?
Yeah.
And
What
what
is
happens if what is the positives and negatives for getting it? What is the positives and negatives of not having sleep?
Mm. Yeah, I'm kind of thinking about the different phases, the different brainwave states of sleep. Have alpha, beta, theta, all these things, and most of sleep is what they call deep sleep, where basically not, they say nothing happens, right? So and it's in 3 hour cycles. So when we sleep, we'll have this short bit where our brain's going off, and they're saying, oh, that they're dreaming or they're doing it, and then it, for most of that time, nothing's happening. Then at the end of the 3 hours, it starts going again, and so it it raises a question, right? Do we need that middle bit? Is this maybe what they were tapping into? Is they're just using the active bit? Because we say sleep, right? But sleep's not a thing, right? It's different things that are all sort of clumped together because we do it, in the same place with our eyes closed, I guess. But it is different. These sort of 4 different states. So I mean, yeah, this is the thing. Like, are we supposed to have that dead time? Do we need that dead time?
Right now we're going through insomnia, where they can't, they're trying to sleep and they can't. And
Mhm.
it is in a sense just, they're just wiped out. Like they're kind of just,
Mhm.
you become for those people, they're becoming a zombie. And I'm sure there's a lot of people, I had insomnia once. I couldn't sleep for like 3.5 weeks straight. Like I didn't sleep. I slept zero for 3.5 weeks. It was like, and it's like, I wondered, how am I still living? How am I still actually alive? And I was kind of functioning, my brain wasn't fully active, and I was very kind of just on moody edges, but I was living okay, and I was eating and I was drinking, and um so in one sense, having these insomnia periods don't seem to be good for the body generally. But like we say, but there are some people who seem to reach certain places where they're not sleeping by a choice, not because I really want to sleep but I can't for some reason. These are people that are like, yeah, I could sleep but I don't want to. So I don't know if it has something to do with an intention, or it's something to do with how they're spending their day energetically, that they hit the night period and they're almost like, they get the, do you want to sleep, yes or no, and they're making a decision.
Yeah. I mean, clearly, we need some form of sleep, because, like I said, you don't function properly. I mean, they used to use it as a torture, right? Sleep deprivation. But,
Mm.
what parts of it do we need? I guess is a good question. Is it just the going in and going out kind of bits, and do they, it's how do we view this dreaming state? You can imagine if you were like, if you viewed it as, your, creative, going to the creative laboratory or whatever, and that's your time to go and whatever, test out theories in the dream state or to get inspiration or whatever, and that's your focus and that's all you're there for. Well, maybe that brings all that in a lot stronger, and once they've got it, maybe they have, their lucid dreaming, maybe they can go, all right, I'm done, I'm going to wake up and go and put it in action now. Because this sleep thing, we just don't, this is a question, we don't really know what it is. So we were talking that they have all these, all these, what they call, what's my mind, all these, not experiments, but where they, do that, they monitor people in sleep, but it's always to do with, brainwave, and it's sort of to do with sleep, people who are not sleeping properly or whatever, but there's no research done on the dreaming state. And are people having similar dreams? What happens, if you have, what effect does the dream have on your waking state? We don't, there's been, as far as I know, at least not many studies done on that. It's all on the physical, right? Which is the world we live in, I guess.
Yeah, and as we sort of talked about the last time, it's this recognition of the average person, before I certainly got into this work and what I was doing here, would have thought that, oh yeah, the dreams we're kind of safe in our dreams, kind of like when I think things in my mind, oh, it's safe in there, it's my personal space. Oh, my dreams are my personal space. We don't think that these are places where we can be invaded by outside entities, by outside influences, that our dreams are sort of, as we aren't lucid, then we are very susceptible, because we're not consciously aware. Then it's very easy for other forces to slip into our dreams and, in a sense, manipulate what's going on there.
Yeah.
And so it might be a reason why research in this field is focused, like you say, on brain waves and sleep itself, not specifically dreams, because they don't want to start going to places and say, hey, you know what we just noticed? We noticed an energy showed up in the person's brain that wasn't actually from them. It's coming from somewhere else. And now, of course, they might try to spin it, well, it's angels coming to talk to them. It's, it's something wonderful and joyous, but you'd have to also say, well, you don't know what it is. Something's coming, and it's coming only during the dream state. If they started researching that, that's a huge door that a lot of these things might not want to let you know, because if we are more astral realm beings, let's take this theory, and I'll see what you think about this theory. If we are really, we like to think we're material world beings who are linked to this astral realm, but if we're the opposite, if we're really an astral being living in the astral realm, and in a sense, the material world is more of a, what I call it, like a projection from the astral, or a mirror of the astral, then actually what's going on in the material isn't anywhere near as important, if that's true, as to what's happening in the astral realm, the things we don't actually see or know. And maybe only in the dream state we're getting this indication of what's happening in the astral. And that's why it's, on one sense, so important, and on one sense diminished, because certain forces here don't want us to know the real connection that's going on between material and astral.
Yeah, exactly. And this whole thing, like, why do some people remember their dreams and other people don't? And literally to the point where some people will say, I've never remembered a dream in my life, and other people are like, oh, every single night, oh, it's so vivid. Is that, I just was thinking, it's like when we're born, right? Most of us come in here wiped. Right. It's like a fractal upright. It's like they're just wiping what we're getting taught in the dream state before we wake up. Some people sort of get through it and remember some, because again, we don't, if we're being attacked in the physical world, you would think that we're going to be attacked in the sleeping world too, because ultimately we are energy, right? Where I see it as where spirit or energy, whatever you want to call it, having a human experience. But like you said, so many people like to say, well, I'm a human with a soul or with a spirit, but it's the other way around. We're a spirit with a human suit, right? So this is the thing, and
yeah,
it's almost, you're not supposed to sort of say that dreams are bad, right? That the dream state, because it's so linked to that word of dreams, right? Dreams are good, right? So, is that another little block in there to stop us looking in there at what's really going on, because we don't really know what's going on. And we've talked about, there's sleep apnea, there's nightmares, there's night sweats, there's all these different things that aren't good that people, go through in their dream state. But but that's still sort of just flicked off. It's just a bad dream. But dreams are good, you know. Like, so we're not really supposed to go there, are we?
And you notice, I mean, again, I can't say this because I know my experience, but if I have a nightmare, let's say a nightmare shows up, often when you wake up from it, you do kind of remember bits of it, like right away. It'll be there, kind of, and you know, you're kind of, oh, you've been jolted up, and so you really remember it. But if you fall back asleep really quickly, you may know you had one in the night, but you can't remember anything about it, like zero. It's like it's just completely gone. And I knew when I did have nightmares in the past, if I didn't write them down in depth, they'd be gone. And even when I would look at those in the morning, it would be like I didn't remember them at all. I had to go by what I had written down to even follow it along. Well, other times, if I had just a dream and I wrote it down, I would still remember bits of it in the morning. So it's also this, the nightmare comes and seems to want to erase itself really, really quickly. And again, you have to wonder, well, what really is that? What's really going on when we have it? Because it seems to be erased so quickly after we acknowledge it.
And it's a weird sort of memory thing, isn't it? Like, what else? You know, we wouldn't accept anything else, right? We wouldn't accept that, you know, oh yeah, I just came from lunch but I can't remember what I did there. The memory's just gone, right? But with dreaming, we just accept it, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well, I can't remember it now because, you know, clearly it was 5 seconds ago. So I mean, that in itself is interesting. You know, why is that? Does that phenomena exist that you remember them and then literally, and we've all had this experience where you remember it, and as you're remembering it, it's just going, right? It's getting sucked out of your head, and then you're like,
Yeah.
you know that there was something you're remembering, but you can't even remember what it was, and it's like this weird feeling, and it does kind of feel like, you know, something's being sucked out of your head a bit, doesn't it? So you know, this is
And I
because we
think it's
have all these.
also related to, it must be related to our conditioning. Sorry, it
You go.
must be related to our conditioning, because very few as children would be conditioned to, once you get up, tell me your dreams. Let me hear what your dreams were. Go into detail. So it's like we're taught to, oh, it's just a dream, like you say, don't worry about it. Get on with your day, have your cereal, get ready for school, and you know. So it's possible that it's also part of our upbringing, that if we were brought up as children from a very young age to focus on our dreams, maybe we would just develop a better awareness, and we wouldn't lose them as quickly. I don't know if it has something to do with the conditioning itself.
Yeah, well, and it's the same as you know, everything you know, non-physical really, isn't it? You know, it's like kids are allowed to have make believe and to believe in, you know, fairy tales and all this, but you hit 5 and you're not allowed to do that anymore. So they kind of wipe that out as well. And it's the same thing, you know, we sort of hit to adulthood, and there's, you know, only a small percentage who still are really sort of getting these inspirations and stuff and this connectedness, and everyone else has been wiped out of the same as dreams. So, you know, it's like when you were talking about before, you know, we're down here, but is our consciousness up there somewhere, you know, kind of the player or whatever, right? Watching the game. And is that us trying to communicate with ourselves? Is that what these flashes of inspiration are, and in the dream state as well? But, you know, we've got this, you know, this overlay, right? These people sort of snatching the information out so that we're not getting it, so that we're not connected.
Yeah, there's an interesting way of looking at it as well. It's this idea that, because if we are in an astral world, so if we're really in a fourth dimensional realm, that the old realm, that as historians, as we look at this other realm that we dig at, that old realm, that might have been a third dimensional realm. That might have been truly a material 3D realm, and we've dropped a level. We think going into the fourth dimension is better. We're going higher. Oh, fifth dimension's even better. But if we're sinking deeper into the simulation, if that's actually what's going on. So
Ah,
if we really live in the fourth dimension, synced lower, so we're now totally then in a mind dimension. And therefore, that would make sense. Reality is a simulation. It's a simulation because we're actually totally operating in the astral fourth dimensional realm. Because one thing I never understood, oh, it's a three-dimensional reality and we're about ready to go into 5D. Well, what happened to 4D? What happened to the fourth dimension? How do you just skip the fourth dimension? It's like, so right away something was wrong with that in my eyes. And so if any of that's true, it means it starts explaining why reality is not real, why it's an illusion, and then why this understanding of, I guess, what might be real mental material, you might say, which is not just mind, thoughts, feelings, emotions, that all of that is the part that actually is manifesting the reality, but we don't think of it that way. We think of it as a reaction to reality as opposed to the opposite, that it's the actual manifesting force of the material that we see here. And maybe that's why they really want to disconnect, because they don't want us to know that. Because if we understood that, we would operate completely differently.
Yeah, because we create what we wanted, right? And this is, obviously the biggest thing they try and teach us is we're not creators. And I mean, it's almost a bit, sort of 13th floor, isn't it? Sort of going down that other fractal, like, in the 13th floor, they have like their physical world and they create their world in the computer world, which is real, but it's just made from their thoughts, right? It's just their thoughts. They've created it and made it up from, whatever. So yeah, I think I tend to think we are in a world of the mind, whatever level that is, whatever D that is, and we are creating it. Who knows, right? Maybe these darker entities are from the 3D world, and maybe we're in the 4D already, right? But they're trying to make us think we're in the 3D, right? No, everything's physical, but and they're trying to drag us down. And this, that's kind of what's happening at the moment. Is some people are like, yeah, okay, and others are like, you're crazy, I'm out of here. I mean, I heard someone the other day, and you think, oh yeah, everyone's getting it, everyone's waking up, and it was a success, really successful, money-wise successful person. And they're like, oh yeah, I can't wait till Elon brings out his bike, these things I can put in my head so I don't have to use a screen anymore. I can just have the internet in my head. And I'm thinking, you are crazy. But these people, they're out there, right? So this is it, I mean, are we in 4D already? Because that's the thing, right? How do you skip 4D? I tend to think that we're already there. And they're trying to sort of drag us back into 3D, which 3D, we sort of, that's the physical world. That's the way we think of it, the box, and then 5D is, above that. So, I mean, this is the biggest question, right? We're trying to figure out all these nuances, but we don't really even know where we are, right? Like, what's going on?
Yeah. And how about this for people to think about? What if, from the standpoint of what's real, what if our dream world
Yeah,
is that's real?
yeah,
And what if
yeah,
all the material world is not?
yeah,
We're doing the opposite. We're constantly fighting to see what in our dreams is information, what of our dreams is helpful, what of our dreams is entities. What if the dream world, that's it? That's actual reality, you might say. And this is just the box.
mm,
This is just the box that uh, you're placed in the astral world for a while to be in control, you might say, or be monitored somehow. So when we go back to those who aren't sleeping, um, are they, in a sense, well, if they're being very creative, then they must be tapping into this other realm even while they're awake, then that they don't need to sleep in some sense to be in the creative mode. But
mm,
if again, it's this thing, which is more real, and if that's the more real place, because I've just been reading this book that I was suggested, the Red Lion, an alchemic book. I don't really suggest it; it's a bit weird, but it does have these ideas of the influence of the astral realm into this realm, and how much of our reality is simply what's going on there that we don't even recognize is going on. We literally are so separate from that we can't even recognize what it is. And once we start recognizing it and understanding what's there, we can literally, I don't want to say control it, that's not the right word. You turn it off. In a sense, you turn that whole thing off. And once you turn it off, you're free to be and see as sort of in clarity, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's this whole idea of then what's really going on when we sleep, what's not going on when we sleep, and it's, yeah, the difference between one who has insomnia and wakes up in the morning feeling terrible, and the other one, because I don't know, like you, I've had other times where I've slept for like, I sleep for maybe an hour, and you would think, oh, I'm terrible, I feel terrible, but you get up anyway. I can't sleep. I just get up, and the rest of the day I feel pretty good. Like I
Mm,
actually feel great. You might go to sleep earlier. You might go, yeah, 8 or 9. I'm tired now. I need to go to sleep. But that particular day, you actually felt that's all I needed. And I know if I had slept longer, I'd feel worse, bizarrely. So it's also this figuring out what's the right amount of sleep we need in any given time. Not enough causes a problem, too much causes a problem. And it's almost like we try to sleep the same amount of hours every night, but that might be incorrect. It's almost like we have to allow the body to figure out this is the amount of sleep I need on this particular night, and that's it.
mm. Well, it's like with, they tell us it's, you need to sleep to grow and to re-energize and that, but that's kind of provably not true, right? You can have someone sitting down there going, oh, I've got no energy, oh, I just can't get up, and someone bursts through the door and go, we just won the lottery. Suddenly they are energized, bang, woohoo, they're going, right? Where did that come from? So this whole thing of, you need to replenish the battery, through sleep doesn't really stand up. We know that energy is instant, right? So exactly, what is this dream state? And I've often thought is dream the reality, and this is like they've tricked us, because they can control this part of a dream. Is it some collective dream we've somehow bought into, and they're shaping it and making it more and more solid, and believable for us. And that's the trap where reality is really, like you said, the dream state, right? Where we're out there creating, but yeah, we've all, got into this, Borg-like kind of connected consciousness dream. We just don't know.
That's pretty interesting, Campbell. That little idea, the idea that maybe our dreams at night, those are individual personal dreams. Those are directly from our consciousness, you might say. But this thing that we have, like, if that's somehow a collective dream where there's like the beams of somehow the attention are all focused together here. But when you sleep, you let go of this dream, you let go of the like you say, the hive, and you go back into an individual dream. And depending how much you start figuring out, maybe that's why these things infiltrate your dreams, because it's like, whoa, because this one might figure something out now. This one might figure
Yeah.
out how real this is, and the other one isn't. So we have to keep them discreet. So you're, as much as you're being distracted here with this realm, which is more just than, according to Campbell's theory, and I'm kind of speaking for him now, I think, but the idea of this place is an attention trap. That's really what it is, right? It's like this idea of everything is focused outward, but in the dream state, where in a sense there automatically begins a focusing inward. Now that's where the biggest manipulation will happen, because if you go too far inward, you might figure everything out. That's a really interesting presentation of a theory you just put out here.
Yeah, and it sort of goes hand in hand with why they, tell us all these, psychics or whatever, or people who see things or whatever who are a bit different. That's crazy, right? Don't go there. Don't believe your dream. It's just a dream. Because they don't want us to go and figure out that that's really reality, right? If we spend too much time there, then we'll be like, hang on. And this is, you could sort of bring it down to these, I've been talking about these, genius sort of type people. I mean, they're really the shapers of the realm, right? So they're sort of popping in, are they the, the, whatever we want to call them, right? The archons popping in and building, literally putting more solidity into this world, and we all sort of relate to it, and then they build all this stuff, and we trap ourselves, and it's until we can, because I mean, what do we keep saying, right? You need to what? You need to wake up. Wake up from this dream, maybe, because it's just a dream, right, that we've built, that's collective, that's not reality.
And I think that's the key point Campbell's making for those of you listening to this. I think the key point that he's saying is that it's not in this reality is not an individual. It's not your personal dream here. It's a collective dream. And each of us is, seeing it or interacting with it slightly different, but that still, it's not making it individual. We are all, this is a conscious trap of combined belief structures somehow,
Yeah.
as opposed to, yeah, our dream state, which is, I think so that could be interesting as to when you're trying to dream with somebody else, because that would now indicate, okay, if we're really in an individual state when we dream, here's our two individual states. So what happens when two people try to do this and connect together? Are they building another one of these fake realms, or are they then together stepping back even deeper then into the dream, into the truth of reality? So again, that could be another way of testing when you're trying dreaming together. Like, do you feel you're creating another false reality, or do you feel you're going deeper into the reality that might be there in the dream state?
Mm. Yeah, indeed, indeed. And we haven't had a chance to do our little sleep experiment yet. We will do it. I've been very busy. So let us know as well if you've done that. But
Yeah.
this is the thing. It's like when we come into this world, I mean, you know, as soon as we hit 5, I mean, before then, but, you know, they start, you know, for little kids, right? That's a tree. That's a car. That's a house. That's, you know, then that just builds up, you know, solidity in this, you know, if we're going from the perspective, this is a dream, that just makes it more solid, right? And then what it also does is it means we all agree that's a house, that's a tree, you know, so it makes this dream state solid, and we connect to it because then we think a thought and it shows, we think a thought and it shows up, you know, so it looks like that, but it's really,
Yeah, that was that stuff I talked about years ago when I did those tests to shut off my mind, so I had no more words in my head, and reality started going away. And I realized that we're creating reality, and I don't know if we're actually creating reality. At least the way I understood it, we are how do I describe it? We're not creating it. We are the reality kind of is there. We're just turning certain light switches on and certain light switches off personally, if I can make
yeah,
sense of that. There's 100 things out there, but we only turn on 3 of them. And we've just learned to turn on the 3 or 4 always, but we can turn off those 3 or 4, turn on 3 or 4 different ones, but it doesn't mean we're really creating it. We're altering our perception in certain ways to see that the reality or the thing we experience in what we call the material world is linked to our perception and the words in our head. And that could be another trick. We're being tricked to think we're creating it. We're actually manifesting it when we're not. We're in a sense choosing what of reality we want to view and what of reality we don't want to view.
yeah, exactly. It's like, it seems like it's, you know, like we have infinite choice, but I mean, if you can think of, you know, if we only have 100 choices, but we have them every time we make a choice, it kind of seems infinite, right? It'd be very hard to prove that wasn't like infinite, you know. So it can definitely, yeah, and where it's what we focus on, right? What we believe and is going to be there is there. What we put our attention on. You know, it's like the old thing is, you know, when you leave your home and go to work, is your house still there? You know, or does it only just pop back up when, you know, when you get home and you're expecting to see it? And if you could get into a state where you expected your house to be, you know, a different house, you know, that would be creating. But do we have any, you know, we don't really have much evidence of that, do we? A lot of people want to do that, you know, they want to leave home in their and go home and find a Mercedes in the driveway, but we don't have any evidence of that. So it does seem that we have these choices, you know, it's more like a choice that you get to choose between certain things rather than actually create from your mind. Because then we'd be getting, you can imagine, right? We'd be getting bubble cars and you know, pirate ship car, you know, everything, right? But we don't get that. It's all within a framework.
It's all within a framework. And I think that's where this idea where you have total free will automatically falls apart. Because if you really did, people should be able to manifest the most bizarre things then, literally. Like, yeah, it's in my head. Like you say, a pirate ship is outside my backyard. No, there isn't. Well, if I can manifest, you know, if I can manifest like a friend dropping over or a winning lottery ticket for $5 or something, I should be able to manifest the pirate ship. So it indicates that there are limits, or certain manifestations would require so much effort that it's actually not worth the end result mostly of doing it. So we're back to this idea of channels of likely, just like a video game where there's the character can do any of like 20 different things, but there's only 20 choices. It, like you say, it looks like free will to the character. It looks like unbelievable amount of choices, but if you could keep rolling, if you could be Bill Murray rolling yourself back in Groundhog Day, you would find eventually you run out of choices. Like
Mm.
he could never get out of Punxsutawney, right? Every time he tried to leave that town, he couldn't do it. So there were certain limits even to his totality of choices in the moment. And but none of us get the chance to relive moments over and over and over again to find out just how many choices we actually have. I mean, that, if possible, that would be such a cool experiment, being able to constantly go back to like 10 o'clock in the morning every day for 1,000 days and trying 1,000 different things. Could you do them all? Or
Mm.
would certain things you find out you're blocked and you can't do them? That would be an experiment to tell you how limited or not this reality is.
Mm. Yeah, it'd be fun. We might have a time machine, but that would definitely be interesting, because this is the thing, it's all an illusion. And in the end, I was just thinking, it's like, you know, if we were manifesting stuff, and we could literally just manifest whatever we thought about, we'd have unicorns running around. I mean, imagine how many little girls there are out there wishing they had a unicorn in their backyard. I mean, there must be millions, hundreds of millions of them, but there's no unicorns. So that kind of proves a point, But what they do is they'll give these kids these different movies. Oh, this is one kind of unicorn you can see, and this is something else, fairyland, and this is, here are your choices, right? And that kind of, starts to compartmentalize them into their thing, and then they start believing that that's choice.
What's interesting, because this goes back also to what you said, or they're manifesting them in the astral realm. So in the real realm that they exist in, they're manifesting the unicorn. But because this is what did you call a collective dream, it requires other dreamers, you might say, to agree to your personal projection. So therefore, young kids, like you say, young kids might see the unicorn. Young kids at 2 years old, oh yeah, I got the unicorn around me, until it's 5, and enough parents around them have said, no, there isn't, and they've shut down the possibility of manifesting it. So but it might be manifesting in this more real fourth dimension. And if the child is still, the veil is tight, that fourth dimension is more, that dream world is drifting in more on top of this one, but it's not strong enough to make it actually tangible in this reality, because it doesn't have enough support of people around it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, not enough people agree with it. So, if you walk past a car, everyone's going, yeah, that's a car, that's a car, that's a car. And a little kid goes, no, that's a donkey. It doesn't turn into a donkey, right? Because everyone agrees that it's a car. And even if the kid sees a donkey, it's not going to make anyone else see it, right? Because it's a group, right? It's like, the majority rules, which we get told all the time, right? Majority rules. Right. So and that's why they have to school us, so that we all agree on the same thing, So, and then that sort of would hold us in this collective dream, because the last thing they want us to do, right, is start, manifesting things that are out of the ordinary, because that'll wake people up, and that'll just sort of implode the illusion. You can imagine if things, and it's in a lot of movies as well, when just crazy, weird things happen, everyone just starts to wake up and think, hang on, what's going, it breaks the illusion, doesn't it? If a car turned into a whatever, right, into a tiger and ran down the street, then everyone's like, hang on, maybe that's not a car. And then you lose that group, we all agree on the same thing. And to whoever's controlling this, they lose control of the simulation, if you want to put it that way, the dream. So it's...
And maybe that's what we see when we watch hypnosis, and particularly when we watch like stage hypnosis shows where, there's 20 people on stage, and then they're told, oh, you're all on a cruise ship, and they're on a cruise ship. Like, they are literally all together on a cruise ship, and or the individual person is but it's like somehow the hypnosis has created this barrier of there's no longer the need for external validation of anything. The external validation is coming from one place now, the hypnotist. So that's the only validation somehow that really, that's what's happened, I think, in hypnosis, is that maybe the amount we need for the external validation to say the world is this is somehow superseded in the hypnotic state. And but there it's if there was nobody telling the hypnotized person what there was they were experiencing, nothing would be going on. You need that voice that says, oh, by the way, you are this, you are here, you were, oh yeah, and then automatic agreement, that's where I am. Obviously then they're seeing it in the astral realm. They're not seeing it here. They're seeing the astral, and they're in a sense believing that the astral realm is also here at the same time, but doesn't need any more external validation. And then once the hypnotist says it's over, or you're out of your trance, it all just goes away. But where did that experience happen, and where did it go to? So that could also be an interesting thing for people who have that kind of knowledge, to also not just the dream aspect of it, but look into hypnosis and say, well, what's really going on to a person's consciousness and their perception when they're hypnotized? Really, not what science says, what's really going on, and the world that they're manifesting as reality, where did it come from? Where did it go?
No, it's interesting. Yeah, is this all happening in what we call the astral realm, which is really reality, right? The real sort of consciousness part, but we're sort of asleep. So we're not remembering that properly because they've switched us, right? Yeah. So we believe this is the reality wake state when it's really just a dream in the bigger picture. So all they have to do is make us believe it, right? And we just keep coming back. And I mean, that's an interesting thing. Is this literally the trap? Is the meat suit, not because we know it's all energy, right? It's all vibration. So there is no physical, but because we all agree that things are physical, and that if you run into a brick wall, it hurts. Then but we also have all these stories of mothers lifting cars off their kids, and people doing all these superhuman things. And it's kind of the same as a hypnotist, right? They forget the program instantaneously, momentarily, right? The mum's not thinking this is a heavy car when she's lifting it. She's just thinking, my kid's under there, right? I've got to get this off. And it's kind of the same concept, right? But the person telling them they can do it is then internal. So, I mean, that's a big question, isn't it? Where do we sit? Where does consciousness sit? Because I think that the mind is a receiver. I think we can fairly, much kind of prove that. The thoughts aren't coming from the brain, that they're being received. So if that's true, then where are they coming from? Is it us?
About that
stuff through?
About that story, right? That was in the holographic universe in the first chapter of that book about the hypnotist and the girl.
With the watch.
Yeah, the watch.
Yeah.
For those who don't know that story, there's the guy who wrote this book, Michael Talbot, was telling a story when he was a young boy. A hypnotist came to his house and was putting on a show for his parents and whatever. And in the course of the thing, he took some guy up and hypnotized him, and then told him, your daughter is invisible. So he's looking around the room. Her daughter's right there, right, sitting in a chair, and is there anyone in the chair there? No, there's nobody in the chair. Okay, kind of cool. But then the hypnotist gets the daughter to stand up, and he takes a watch that this guy would have never seen that had an inscription on it, and he holds it against the daughter's back. So there's no way this guy, it's held against actually physical matter against the daughter's back, and asks, can you read this watch? Can you see what I have in my hand? Yeah, you got a watch. Is there anything written on it? Yeah, there's an inscription. And he's kind of squinting at it and kind of says, oh, it says this, and this. So it's not just that somehow he was unable to see his daughter because there was some sort of hypnotic suggestive command. This command showed that literally the physical matter of his daughter was able to be disappeared, and the other matter that the hypnotist was talking about could be seen. Now, okay, someone could say, well, somehow the hypnotist beforehand put a command in this guy's head with those words, and something he said was going to pull up the words that the daughter didn't really vanish to him. But it still begs the question, we don't know. We don't, and there's been a number of these kind of stories where reality just comes and goes, is there, isn't there, And so we're back to this. I think Campbell's been onto a really good piece here. This idea of not just we're in a dream, which most people would recognize, some sort of simulation, some sort of non-physical energetic vibration, but that it might be collective. We like to think of it as personal. It's somehow reality is mine. It's all about me, as opposed to, once we see, but it's all about us. And that's why it's so hard to disengage from the dream, because even if you try to disengage, there's 8 billion others who are engaged. And so the dream's going to keep going.
Yeah, and that's the emotional attachment, isn't it? They attach us to it so that, you know, we think it's real. We don't want to leave it, right? You know, I've got all these attachments, these emotional attachments, to keep it real, you know. So they've sort of built it and got the fail safe, so we kind of don't want to leave, right? You know, and this is the thing, but you know, there's always that question of when people do leave, you know, it's, are they going all better? You know, should we be happy for them because they made it out? You know, we kind of tend to think it's this horrendous, horrible thing, but that's only because from our point of view, right? Because we're still here. So, yeah, I mean, what do you think, guys? A collective reality. You know, are we, you know, and it sort of comes up on this, you know, changing of, you know, the ages and everything. So if we all believe something different, think a different thought, will reality change? Is that what this, you know, because in the bigger, you know, reality that we're experiencing, you know, a lot of change is going on, and we're being told, you know, there's a lot of talk, oh, new ages, things are going to change, and is that we're just going to agree collectively to see something different, and that'll change everything, right? Because it's an agreement, a collective agreement. You know, if we agree, well, now cars can fly, well, do cars fly?
Yeah, really good question. And a really good question, just we can end sort of on this idea, but just to sort of throw it out as well, is why is now, in the last 2 or 3 or 4 years, has the collective been so focused on looking into history? Why has the collective in the last 4 years been obsessed with digging into old historical questions that nobody was interested in at all before, for like the last 50 years? So is that generated by us? Is that being generated by us somehow? Or like, is it something external, good or bad, we don't know, that's pushing on society as a whole, like you say, to start thinking about this topic, because we need this idea manifested into reality about something about the ancient world or history, that because it just exploded, right? Like 4 years ago, nobody had any interest in what happened in any time really in history, other than following the standard narrative. And all of a sudden, 4 years ago, the narrative's bullshit, and we're going to start looking into it. Well, how did that happen all of a sudden, all around the world, like at the same time? That in itself, to me, is odd. The time, the collective and the surge of it, and that all of a sudden, right now, boom, here it is. Right, like you say, we're at this big change is going on, and somehow at the change, everyone says, "I need to study history finally."
Yeah, and then we start to see that it's, yeah, like you said, we're all agree now it's all crap, and so now, you know, is that part of to get us to a point where we can think another thought? You know, well, that's clearly all bullshit. Let's, you know, what do we want to create, or is it, yeah, something inserted, you know, good or bad, that this is where that we're going, or where someone wants us to go, is we have to, you know, because you see that all the time, you know, with inventions. I notice it all the time, is you'll get these inventions, but it'll always be, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6 people come up with the same idea at the same time, and they might, you know, create it slightly differently or whatever, but it's like a collective consciousness thing. And it sounds very much like, you know, a program being inserted, doesn't it? So,
and this is probably a good segue for you then, which we just talked about history, that because you've got another event coming up, right? So maybe you should let everyone know about it.
Yeah, definitely bring that up. And then, yeah, so Rockhampton, anyone who's up in northern Queensland, Australia, Rockhampton, check out the link below. I'll be up there in, 10 days with Kelly, talking all things history and Tartaria, and blowing people's heads off, hopefully. And then, February next year, we're back in Brisbane, so we shall let you know. And of course, Howdies Well, I think you've got a new book. You've got a new book finished, but it's not quite. It's out in PDF, is that right, or on ebook form?
Yeah, it's just like a PDF ebook at this point. It's still a slow process. It's ready. It's just the publishing group I'm using is very slow being able to get it into a book form, but I'm really hopeful any of the next few days it'll be.
Got to get enough people to agree it's real first, Howdy. Once enough people agree that that's Howdy's book, then it will manifest, right?
Maybe, or yeah, maybe there's something going on in the Astral that I don't know. I don't know, but it'll be soon.
All right. So we'll leave links for that below, guys. And of course, go check out Howdie's channel if you haven't already. And yeah, check out the links to the events and everything. And yeah, there you go. Also, let us know what do you think of these ideas. Have you tried any of the dreaming stuff? And we will get on and have try our dream meetup soon and let you know how we go with that. And yeah, we will be back. I mean, gosh, we're getting close to the end of the year, so hopefully we'll get one more in before the end of the year, maybe two. We'll see how we go, and then gosh, it's going to be 2023. So yeah, it's all happening. So thanks for joining me again, Howdy. Hope everyone enjoyed that one. And we'll be back with more Rules of the Realm in a few weeks. Talk to you then. Bye for now.